If she forsake me, I must die. Shall I tell her so? Alas, then straight will she reply, no, 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 no. Thus still is my despair procured, and her malice more assured. Then come death, and end my pain. Ah, a sad song, an Elizabethan song. There are so many. Can she excuse my wrongs with virtue's cloak? Shall I call her good when she proves unkind? Are those clear fires which vanish into smoke? Must I praise the leaves where no fruit I find? No, no, where shadows do for bodies stand. Thou mayst be abused if thy sight be dim. Cold love is like to words written on sand, or to bubbles which on the water swim. Wilt thou be thus abused still, seeing that she will right thee never? If thou canst not o'ercome her will, thy love will be thus fruitless ever. If thou canst not o'ercome her will, thy love will be thus fruitless ever. Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth. She gave her name to the age, the Elizabethan age, the English Renaissance. We know about the Renaissance. 200 years earlier, the Italians came up with the idea of the Renaissance man, the man who, more than a dilettante, could do everything and do it well. He wrote poems. He sang them. He played an instrument, probably the lute. He danced. He dressed in fancy clothes. He flirted with the ladies. But he was not just a wuss. You'd get out him on the field, he'd take a sword and wield it with the best. He was in fine shape and fine fettle. So when the English came to their own Renaissance with Elizabeth, you remember Elizabeth? Her daddy, Edward, no, I'm sorry, Henry, the bad Henry, the notorious, famous Henry VIII. He became a fat slob as he grew older. His reputation was to tear up everything and to make himself the king. You remember his story, of course. He married a Spanish princess, Catherine of Aragon. She gave him what children she could, but he wanted a son, and she just wasn't able to do it. So he wanted to divorce her. Well, the Pope said, no, you can't do that. So he said, forget you. He set up his own church in England and put himself at the head of it, gave himself the right to divorce his wife and marry again. She didn't give him what he wanted, gave him a daughter, but the son he wanted, no. He went through a succession of wives, marry, divorce, some he beheaded. The first, he had some affection for her, so he put her in a little apartment and kept her out of sight. But the others come and go. He died in deteriorating health, got fatter and fatter, got gout, was losing his marbles, I think, died with one male heir, a sickly son, Edward. Henry died. Edward took the throne. Didn't make it very far, very long. He died in his teens. Well, that left the two half-sisters, Mary, who was queen for a while, and then Elizabeth came and took the throne for a half a century. Gave her name to the age, the Elizabethan age, was in many ways a fascinating woman. She was educated, she read, she was intelligent, she spoke many languages. She had to, of course, because she dealt with all the countries around. They all sent emissaries, their nobles, to marry Elizabeth because she was the Virgin Queen. She never married. The idea of virgin was because she never married. Although, when she was younger, she apparently did not feel bound by that. She, how shall we say, was head over heels with Dudley Do-Right, wanted to marry him, but he was already married, and his wife just wouldn't die. But Elizabeth, the affairs of state drew her on, and she proceeded to rule the realm, accepting suitors from all the surrounding countries. France sent one, Spain sent one, Italy sent one, and she would say, I'm up for grabs, I am unmarried, I am the Virgin Queen. Wouldn't you like to add England to your wannabe empire? And she'd say, oh, what did you bring me? Oh, a chest of gold and jewels. Very nice, thank you. Set it right down at my feet. Now go over there and get in line. I'll call you when I'm ready. Who's next? Thank you. Come on over. What did you bring me? She did this for years. Kept people at odds, fighting against each other, and shepherded England through some very difficult, trying times. One of them, and we all remember, the Spanish, who were, how shall I say, miffed, annoyed because she would not choose to marry a Spaniard. So they said, well, forget you. We'll just come and invade England and take you over and add you to our empire. They had been the rulers of the world for some time. They sailed the seas. They sent their ships west to reach the east. They hired an Italian navigator. They gave him 3 ships, and he sailed looking for India, China, Japan. He ran into America, which turned out to be a good thing because they had gold. They were looking for spice and silk, but gold was even better. So they raked it in. And then they said to Elizabeth, if you won't choose us, we'll come and sail up the coast and take you over. So they built the Spanish Armada and aimed it toward England. Well, Elizabeth, what was she to do? She got her boys together, Walter Raleigh and Sir Francis Drake, the sailors, who took the British ships, which they had built in preparation because England used to be covered by trees. They cut them down, and made the ships, the British Navy. So the Spanish were coming up toward England, and the British got their ships smaller, lighter, more maneuverable, aimed at the Spanish. And they took some of the old, ratty old ships they would have thrown in the dust heap. They lashed the rudders, they set them on sail, and they sailed down toward the Spanish Armada, whose heavy ships carried big cannons, were not very maneuverable and couldn't get out of the way. And the British ships came, set the Spanish ones on fire. They blew up. They set the next and the next and the next. The Spanish fleet burned up, died, drowned. A few ships sailed back to Spain, and the British ships pursued them and sank most of them. So that was it. Spain had its chance, and now England ruled the waves. Well, Elizabeth, the monarch presiding over all of this and going through problem after problem, presided over a court. That's the court where everyone dressed fancy and played fancy games. They'd play the flirting game, ladies, let's pose, let's sing a song, I'll perform for you, we'll dance the dance, don't be coy. But so many of them were, because after all, the monarch was the Virgin Queen, so you don't give it away too easily for free. This was a great way to play the Renaissance, the English Renaissance. They borrowed the idea from the Italians a couple hundred years earlier, who came up with the notion of the Renaissance gentleman. More than a dilettante, he could do everything and do it rather well. Yes, he could write poems, he could set them to music and sing them, he could play the lute, he could dance, but get him out on the field, he could also wield a sword, he was in good shape. Well, Elizabeth had her own court and her own courtiers, and, as you heard, they did their court songs, a series of them. Thomas Campion wrote the songs, he wrote the poems, set them to music, and some Philip Rosseter, who also set others of his to music. These came out when Elizabeth was still alive at the end of her throne, at the end of her half a century. The late 1500s into the early 1600s, Elizabeth died in 1603, and Shakespeare was still alive and writing. It was the Shakespearean age. It was the high point of English civilization. Shakespeare, we all know, is the greatest of British literature, of English literature, of the language. Everyone bows to him, but he had his contemporaries. He was the playwright at the Old Globe, but then others like Christopher Marlowe, whom we know so well, and Ben Jonson, Shakespeare's friend, fellow playwright, his plays at another theater, was actually a better playwright than Shakespeare, more careful. Wrote balanced verse, carefully developed characters. He was like Mozart, and Shakespeare was like Beethoven, bursting in all directions. Well, Elizabeth's time was full of activity, cultural, intellectual, physical, possible war withheld, and the gentleman who played the court games with the courtly ladies that sometimes said, no, no, sometimes got a little restive. They went back to their own castles and their own estates because the village maidens were as young as the court ladies, but apparently played better games, were more accessible. Well, they found their way into song too. Another one of Campion's songs, well, I don't want to do all Campion. Let me do Dowland, John Dowland. It looks like Dowland, but it's pronounced Dowland. He wrote one of the songs for the uncommon man and the more common lass. I think I shall try to show it as a balance to the court song, if I can remember it. Yes, of course. I care not for these ladies who must be wooed and prayed. Give me fair Amaryllis, the wanton country maid. Nature art disdaineth, her beauty is her own. Her when we court and kiss, she cries, forsooth, let go. But when we come where comfort is, she never will say no. Who when we court and kiss, she cries, forsooth, let go. But when we come where comfort is, she never will say no. Cut. End. Stop. Turn off. Enough.